Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Thrifting Time. In this episode, we're going to take a look at a couple of thrift stores, but after each one, we're also going to take a look at kind of a cool landmark type thing that's next to each of the thrift stores. Started off over in the media section in this Goodwill like I usually do, and I found the Top Gun soundtrack on cassette tape. I actually already have that cassette tape. And then I found the Z100 Morning Zoo Greatest Hits Volume 3. This is a compilation of parody songs from an old morning radio show that was based out of New York City but then was syndicated to a lot of other markets. I always love finding old radio station memorabilia. This tape had a copyright date of 1987 on it, and I have lots of CDs from radio stations, but I don't have any cassette tapes, so I picked this one up because I'm also a huge fan of parody songs. And apparently there's at least 2 other volumes of this. Over in the CDs, I found this Scholastic Audio Curious George Plants a Tree. Looks like it's an audio book. I always tend to grab things when I see the Scholastic logo on them because it reminds me of the Scholastic Book Fair. And this is some old Winnie the Pooh software from Disney. I think it's maybe a storybook software type program. I like the specs on that. It's pretty old. Here's a advanced copy of somebody's CD. And then here's some Lego software. This was made for Windows 98, it looks like, and I'm a huge fan of Legos and vintage software, so I did grab that. And this here are all of the discs for the game Riven, which is the sequel to Myst. I actually already have this complete in box, but it's always kind of neat to find old computer games with the CDs. And I think that's all of the discs for the game. It sucks that they're priced individually though. But yeah, I grabbed this Lego software just to pop it into my Windows 98 machine. Now over here are stacks of scrolls that are for the old player pianos. I didn't see the actual piano that would be used to play these scrolls anywhere in the thrift store, but it looks like somebody's huge collection of them was dropped off here. These are very old. I usually see stuff like this in antique stores, not in Goodwill. But we can take a little bit of a closer look. And yeah, these scrolls were put into the piano, and as the piano went through the scroll, it would use like kind of a punch card type system to read the scroll and play the notes and play music. It was like the world's first jukebox. I wonder how long these are going to sit here. This chair caught my eye, and if it was in a little bit better shape, not quite so banged up, I may have purchased it to use as a secondary office chair. That's just an awesome print. But then I saw this Sony, what looks like just Sony speakers, but this is actually a complete home entertainment system. It has a 5-disc DVD changer and then the subwoofers and everything built in. And this thing's pretty beat up, but it would have been really awesome when it was new to have this hooked up to one of those late model Sony Trinitron widescreen CRT televisions. They don't make things like this anymore, but I guess they don't really need to. Here's a closer look at the front of it, and you can see how there's a 5-disc DVD changer and then surround sound speaker setup. And we saw the sequel to Myst earlier. This is not Myst the computer game, this is Myst the board game, which was something I didn't know existed. I wonder if it's as confusing as the original PC game. Although I really enjoyed the PC game. And it looks like this has a date of 1998, which is right around when Myst came out. Now here is an HP DesignJet T120. When you defeated all the other HP printers, this is the final boss that you have to fight. This printer came out in 2012, but you can still get cartridges for it, but the complete set's either $100 or $200, depending on if you go with name brand or generic cartridges. This network caught my eye just because of the old Best Buy price tag, but that's not really anything that I need. And here's a toy cash register that for some reason I have memories of this or something like it as a kid. I don't know if it was this exact one, but it was one of those things that I kind of forgot I knew that it existed until I saw it again. Now here's a TIAC bookshelf stereo system, and I'm guessing it's missing a component. A lot of times these had a secondary component that went underneath that maybe had a cassette player or equalizers in it. But this thing's actually pretty nice. The speakers are solid wood, and it's really heavy and chunky. I have an Iowa bookshelf system that looks very similar to this one, but it has the cassette player part and everything, and I love it. It's my main stereo up in my loft. Here's a closer look at the speakers. It's nice that they're solid wood. And I don't think, $24.50 or so is a bad price for this thing if it works. Here's another CD player and recorder. This is a Philips CDR 560, which is something I didn't know existed, but it's a CD recorder and copier that you can just put in your home stereo system and not have to have a computer or anything in order to copy CDs. This thing's pretty neat. This thing was released in 2006, and it is interesting to see a lot of the early and mid 2000s electronics showing up in Goodwill now. Now, this desk and chair triggered flashbacks of kindergarten for me. I'm pretty sure these were the exact chairs and desks that we had in like kindergarten, maybe first grade. Super solid. And these are in pretty good shape. Wonder where these came from, because there's just the one set there. Now this made me laugh as soon as I saw it. This is a Millennium 2000 countdown clock. And this is a stupid, cheap little gadget thing that they sold right before the year 2000 to kind of cash in on the whole new millennium thing. This one's complete in the box, and it's just got a lot of millennium trivia on it that's not even that interesting. It was very much just churned out quickly. And they actually made these with several different types of branding. I've seen some that look just like this, but are like M&M's candy branded Millennium Countdown clocks. I did end up buying this because it was so cheap, and I actually took it apart and everything in a video over on my second channel, the RA2 channel. Well, and it looks like Grogu's been around long enough officially to start showing up in thrift stores. I'm sure this was a lot more than $3.49 when it was new. If you've watched a lot of my Thrifting Time videos, I do find a lot of Star Wars stuff at thrift stores. It's just interesting to see Grogu starting to show up now. Speaking of Disney stuff, here's a Mickey Mouse doll, and specifically this is the talking Mickey Mouse doll from World of Wonder. This was released in 1986, and this is pretty much the same thing as a Teddy Ruxpin. It's actually made by the same company that made Teddy Ruxpin, and it works exactly the same way. In the back of the doll there's a cassette tape player, and it uses special cassettes that go with it, and those cassettes make it speak and also control the mouth and the eye movements. Yeah, you can see the World of Wonder name there on the back. And all in all, this thing was in pretty decent shape except for the really yellowed eyes on Mickey Mouse. That's it for this Goodwill location. Let's go take a look at the interesting place that's across the street from it. This is the old Buckhorn Baths Motel that's right across the street from the Goodwill location we were just at. This hotel obviously is no longer operating, but it is very old. It's on an old historic stretch of highway that's now just serves as Main Street for Mesa, the city that it's in. And this place originally opened in 1939. The bathhouse part of it closed in 1999, and the rest of the hotel and the wildlife museum that's here closed in 2004. Although it looks like this place is completely abandoned, it's actually not. There's a couple of these casitas in the far back corner that are still leased out as apartments. None of these are, but there are still a few people that live here. Right back there, you can see there's some cars under some of the little driveways, and there's a bus parked out front there. Now, from what I understand, the leases on those are almost up, and this place was recently sold. Again, it's been purchased and sold a few times. But it's surprising to me that it's all still standing here. I do remember when I was a kid, that Buckhorn Baths Motel neon sign did still light up. I'm not sure when it finally stopped working. Now, the bathhouse part of this was because there were actually a couple of hot springs that were found here when the original owners drilled for a well, and there was hot mineral water that came out, so they opened this place up. Hot mineral baths were kind of a health and wellness fad at the time. Here's a closer look at the sign. It was really cool when it lit up. And there's the old Wildlife Museum sign, which was really just a collection of taxidermied animals. And here's our second Goodwill location, and we're here at night because the thing we're going to look at after this Goodwill location is best viewed at night, and you'll see what I mean when we get to it. Let's take a look at the media section, and this one seems to have a lot of VHS tapes, actually. I'm starting to see less and less VHS tapes at Goodwill. And there was even a couple of factory sealed ones like this, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This is a later release of this film, though. Over in the board games, I found a Captain Kangaroo alphabet game. If you remember Captain Kangaroo, your back is probably killing you. I barely remember Captain Kangaroo. It was kind of at the very beginning of me remembering things when Captain Kangaroo was popular. I more remember things like Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street and shows like that. But it's just kind of interesting to see something that old here at Goodwill. Here's another old board game that looked interesting to me. This is a factory sealed Rocket Toomey board game that's a musical trivia game with 60s, 70s, and 80s music trivia. And it comes with a CD. It says right there, CD player required. This came out in 2001, so if a game like this came out today, it would be like, what, 80s, 90s, and 2000s music? 90s, 2000s, and 2010s music? This whole thing's making me feel really old. Now, Goodwill stores usually have a lot of ties, but this might be the best tie I've ever seen at Goodwill. It just has 90s internet jargon written all over it. And it was only $3.49. Things like email, interactive, World Wide Web, information highway. What the hell's a web war? This tie is fantastic, and I ended up picking it up even though I don't know if I'll ever wear it. It's just fantastic. It's from 1997 from Ralph Marlin and Company, and it's literally titled Internet Language. I love that the tie has a name. Here's a water bottle that advertises that you're a snitch. I don't know why anybody would want that. Now this was really neat, even though it is pretty dusty and beat up, but this is I almost said old-fashioned. It's an older style component stereo system. It has a turntable, cassette player, graphic equalizer. It is really dusty and beat up though, but it looks like it's in its original cabinet. It probably had a glass door as well. It looked like it did, but that probably broke off. Those look like the speakers that go to it. Yep, those are the speakers. Those look like they're in decent shape too, just really dusty. They could use a heavy cleaning. This could be a really cool retro stereo system for somebody who wanted to put the work and time and effort into cleaning it up. That person is not me, though. I noticed there was even some cassette tapes down here in the bottom, as well as looked like there were a couple in the player as well. Let's see what they were listening to. The Thompson Twins. Fantastic. Over in the electronics, I found this Playaway View system, which is something I had never seen before. But this was something that you could apparently check out from your library in order to view things like Sesame Street episodes. This one has some Elmo's World stuff on it, I believe. And like I mentioned, parents could check these out from their library and give them to their kids during like long car trips and things like that. These came out in the mid 2000s, I believe, before everybody had smartphones and you could just hand your phone to your kid to let them watch Sesame Street or whatever. And it's just, yeah, an all-in-one unit here with just an episode of Elmo on it. And you can see this one came from the Carroll County Public Library, so somebody probably forgot to return this, found it when they moved, and just dumped it off here. And it came with a charging cable as well. Kind of an interesting idea, but another one of those things that's really probably not necessary anymore. Also in the electronics was a pretty decent looking Xbox collection starter kit. It was $61.49, but if everything here works, I don't think that's a bad price, and there were some decent games included with it as well. It even has the remote for the DVD player function, a couple of controllers, all the hookups, the power cable, a good stack of games. Yeah, that's a nice little starter setup. And here's a snow globe that seems to be, looks like filled with piss. This thing looks super old. I don't think there's any way to fix that yellowing of the liquid in those. I also like the stream of glitter that looks like it's coming out of its butt. I saw this large art print here, and I really like this. It's also not a bad price at all for a piece of art this big, and it looks like it was framed at Z Gallery. Or maybe it was just purchased there. But the frame is really nice as well. I ended up buying this. And here's a couple of big cats that look like they've seen some things. Those eyes look wild. But I think it's time to head on out of this thrift store and let's go take a look at the interesting thing that's across the street from this one. This is a historic neon sign known as the Diving Lady, and it's located at the Starlight Motel, which is right across the street from the Goodwill location we were just at. This sign was put up in 1960, which was 2 years after the Starlight Motel opened, and it was designed by a local artist named Stanley Rusin. The sign was constructed by a local sign maker named Paul Millett. This sign stood until October 10th, 2010, when a huge storm knocked it over and pretty much destroyed it. There was a restoration effort that was led by the Mesa Preservation Foundation, and the sign ended up being restored by a guy named Larry Graham, who was also a local sign maker who was mentored by the guy that originally built it, Paul Millett. It cost $120,000 to restore, and it was officially turned back on at a ceremony on April 2nd, 2013. The Diving Lady does 6 dives per minute. The first lady at the top is 9 feet tall, and then the other two are 15.5 feet tall. Each of the letters in Motel are 6.5 feet tall, and the entire sign is 70 feet tall. I am really glad that this sign was restored because I've always loved it. I loved seeing it when I was a little kid, just watching the lady dive into the water. At night, if you're further away from the sign but can still see it, the animation is even more convincing because you can't see the ladies that aren't lit up. This is where we're going to wrap up this episode of Thrifting Time, though. As always, everyone, thanks for watching. Want to see your name here? Head on over to patreon.com/retailarchaeology to find out how you can help support the channel. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this episode of Thrifting Time. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also follow at the social media links down there because that's the best way to keep up with what's going on with the Retail Archaeology channel.